They need to have a look at what sorts of things are being offered at the lodges. So and the various reserves. Certain reserves have got a very sort of rustic feel. They don't have very many vehicles, very many lodges, and they have kind of minimalistic a minimalistic approach. So tented camps using solar power, and all of those sorts of things. Some lodges do post this on their websites that they are eco-friendly and that they recycle their grey water, they utilise solar power, rainwater and so on. Wilderness Safaris, which we don't have in the Eastern Cape, but Wilderness Safaris is one such company that actually has eco-friendly lodges that have a very, very small impact on the environment. And we've got to remember that there's always going to be some kind of impact. If you're putting a road through a piece of bush, that's going to have an impact on certain species and definitely on vegetation. If you're using diesel vehicles to drive around in the bush, you're going to be having some kind of impact. You're polluting the atmosphere effectively. So it really depends what you want. Perhaps going somewhere where they only offer walking safaris, where there are very few vehicles. That kind of thing is a good option. But I mean, just using some common sense and intuition really is a good idea. Reading between the lines when they say that there's a 180 bed hotel, that's going to have a huge impact rather than an intimate 8 bed lodge that was an old farmhouse. So converting existing infrastructure into a lodge that's small scale, because that if there's only 6 beds or 8 beds in that particular lodge, there's going to be fewer staff, fewer vehicles associated with it, fewer trips into town, all of those kinds of things. So I think as soon as the scale becomes very, very large, then you're probably going to be seeing more of an impact. And the same is true for national parks. I mean, there's been some talk about the hotel that they want to put up outside of the Kruger National Park and how this is going to be the end. But if you go to the Kruger Park, they've got quite a few, I can't remember the actual number offhand, but very large rest camps. Those rest camps can take huge numbers of people. Where does all that waste go? Where all the staff that service those units, where do they stay? What impact on the environment do they have? So even in a seemingly eco-friendly environment where there are rest camps and not necessarily hotels, you've got to think of the scale. I'm not sure if you've been to the Kruger, but a place like Skukuza is a small city. Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
It's absolutely massive. I mean, it's got everything you could need. You can live there. It's got doctors, a very large shop, post office, banks, hire car companies, all sorts of it. It's massive. I mean, you can check on the web to see the footprint, but it's really, really big. And is an 80 bed hotel going to be worse than the largest rest camp in the Kruger National? Those are the sorts of things. So basically the bottom line is that it depends on the scale that you're working at. If you've got a very large operation, it's probably going to have more of an impact on the environment than a much smaller scale operation.